And I think it was also very much about understanding that Colfax and Fowler really pride themselves on understanding the English home.
Yeah.
And they have really mastered linking strong senses of tradition with being able to produce contemporary design. Our main starting point was we really wanted to focus on the home.
Yeah.
Really wanted to think about where these textiles would be and who would be enjoying them. And understanding the British home and coming up with our own kind of ideal house really helped it.
They are about the home and not like a designer kind of, oh god.
It's very much about the family.
Yeah.
You can imagine the fabrics being used in a home where generations have lived there, as opposed to something new that's just been built up. It's really
soft,
generational.
and generational.
Yes.
And, yeah.
So I suppose in thinking of our designs, we were really trying to think about elements of the home, and the one that stuck out the most for us was the whole notion of old keys. We really liked the ideas of old doors and locks, and looking at wonderful old iron keys and the great imagery that they have and the wonderful design work that's in all the iron.
Yeah, and thinking about damask and classical shapes and making them more contemporary. So using the key, we were able to create a really interesting but soft design that could really mould well, we think, within the company.
Exactly, and because the damask shape is so unusual and it's ended up with a really contemporary feel. But what's fun is knowing that it still has such strong roots in tradition and a wonderful sense of heritage to it.
And the simple curvatures and lines kind of lent itself well to having a coordinate of florals. So we looked at the Royal Horticultural Society, and the flower of the year was the Harlequin.
Blue, yeah.
So we decided to take that element and bring it into a simple stripe that could be embroidered.
Exactly. And then while we were on the floor, Colfax and Fowler is so strong with their florals that we really wanted to be able to continue that tradition, but almost take it up another level and really give it a whole new dimension.
Be more cutting edge.
Exactly.
Almost.
So while we were thinking about our ideal home, we were thinking about what would be in the garden there, and the most sensible place to start seemed to be what flowers would you have in your ideal garden in this home.
Yeah.
And as we were thinking and talking, it developed into how this home would have a vegetable patch.
Because that whole idea of regeneration,
homegrown, organic, just
everyone's going back to nature.
Colfax and Fowler has a really distinctive colour palette as well. They're very well established in what they use, and it makes their work recognisable as well. So we didn't want to stray too far. We wanted to really pick a colour palette that they would be able to relate to.
So we kept classic muted tones.
Exactly. So we started out with some really lovely warm creams. We were thinking about almost lemon type creams just to make them really lovely and fresh and rich at the same time. And then developing it into a really splendid range of greens.
Greens, from limes to blues, just kind of...
duck egg blues, things that are really very soft.
Yeah.
And then we wanted to add pinks to just give a little bit of that feminine touch.
Yeah,
a little
dusty
bit of
tones.
Dusty tones, exactly. Kind of blushing pinks.
Yeah.
And then also adding in some mauves and some more taupe tans, things to make it warmer, richer, and to just balance out the palette as a whole. Yeah. And then Colfax and Fowler are they have a very distinct style in terms of their fibres that they use. And they've really been able to develop just the texture of their fabrics.
Yeah, and keep it simple. So we focused on cotton and linen fibres, being really experimental within the designs that you can create.
Exactly, and it was very much about keeping the texture and the feel of the fabric just as organic as the design is. Yeah. It's about being very natural, quite raw almost, and really being able to be really textured with the weights of the fibres that were being used as well. And then adding in just tiny amounts, just little highlights of silks and viscoses to just give it a bit of kind of underlying, just a little bit of glamour almost, a little bit of shine,
and
something to lift it as a whole. So when we were trying to put together our initial mood board for Colfax and Fowler, we really wanted to just pull everything that gave us inspiration.
Yeah, so we looked at magazines, the National Trust, exhibitions, especially the Gauguin, which has been really big at the Tate Modern. And then we also looked at Vetriano and found these colour palettes were most suitable for Colfax and Fowler, as there's such a beautiful kind of old world sophistication.
They had such a subtlety to them, but also such a warmth and a richness that it just seemed to suit Colfax and Fowler perfectly. And then as we kept going, we just found ourselves looking at everything that sparked our interest. What I think we realised was that outdoor things seemed to suit best. So places like Beamish, even just looking at entire towns, places so rooted in heritage and history.
As well as interesting beach huts that go along the old seaside towns.
And then also turning our attentions to just the garden, what vegetables are growing, what you can find there, all the different florals like the Harlequin Blue, which was the flower of the year by the Royal Horticultural Society.
And found these beautiful organic shapes just within jewellery designers, so really looking outside the box and finding something new.
Yes. And then as well, just looking at things that would appear in an old home. What would you really expect to have in a home from a family that's lived there for generations? Things like old paintings, the old iron key works, just little bits of china, everything that just seemed appropriate.
Yeah, and even looking at distorted furniture, which seems to be quite a prominent trend at the moment within the UK, and we felt that it suited the look of heritage and has a warm sophistication that I think Colfax and Fowler.
And I think what we pulled overall from our initial board and what we ended up aiming to achieve through our designs was a feel of something that it was very much outdoors. It was so much more about the outside than the inside.
Yeah.
And something that was very natural and homegrown.
Yeah, and organic.
I suppose our expectations when we came over here were really just to be able to learn as much as possible.
Yeah, to expand our knowledge and skills within the industry of textiles, and to learn each other's disciplines.
Exactly.
Like, as mixed media embroidery student, I really want to learn more about weave and what you can do with jacquards and dobbies.
Exactly, and as a weave student, it's always fascinating to just find other ways to add to your samples and other ways to give new dimensions to your designs.
Also to understand the mill and all the different processes that you have to go through within the design industry.
To be able to become familiar with the whole of the industry, really the whole process from start to finish, has just really been invaluable.
Yeah.
So, and I suppose just in terms of the future, it's really hopefully that we've been lucky enough to have this experience, which not many students get to do, and just hopefully that will help us out when we leave we have one more year at the Royal College, and hopefully it will help us.
Yeah, when we leave, just explore a new avenue of the industry within the UK and kind of bring back the knowledge that we've learnt here and apply it to different areas when we leave.